Viewer discretion is advised.
Okay, before you say you won 4 cups in a row, there have been 6 different presidents since that happened. And you know these next 2 are coming. I'm sure you've been waiting the whole time. Say it with me now. You hired Mike Milbury as your GM, and you're still paying Rick DiPietro on his Albatross contract. And yes, that's all I got, because these 2 facts are easily the worst out of all these. And you traded Bobby Lou to make room for DiPietro. Leon Ledecky and Scott Malkin, no relation to Evgeny, were actually college roommates at Harvard in the 70s. Ledecky made his fortune in office supplies, while Malkin is an heir to a real estate kingdom that once owned the Empire State Building. The two bought the Isles from Charles Wang in 2013. Caught in the middle of political ping pong, the Barclays Center will share hosting duties this year with the old arena, the Nassau Coliseum, in an arrangement that makes very little sense. The Isles, who desperately needed a rink after Fort Neverlose went into disrepair, moved into the Barclays Center in 2015. After heat and unrest from the actual residents of Long Island, a new barn is being built in Belmont, set to open in 2021. Since Barclays wasn't built for hockey, there are obstructed view seats and the ice quality has been questioned. The roof of the stadium has natural grass, which keeps the building cool. I wonder which union gets to mow that thing.
Face it, the New York Islanders have been the NHL's punchline for the better part of 2 decades now. It started with those goddamn TV dinner fisherman uniforms and hasn't stopped ever since. This sort of thing takes both a keen sense of talent and dedication to the art of suckitude. It's gotten to the point where their dynasty in the early 1980s sounds like one of Aesop's fables. I mean, this joke of a team had Mike Bossy on it? Personally, I have no goddamn idea where to begin on explaining this on-ice tragedy, so let's start at the top with Charles Wang. This man is notorious in hockey circles as being one of the most incompetent owners in the sport. In 2006, he hired a GM in Neil Smith, who promptly resigned in 40 days due to the extreme amount of meddling that ownership had subjected him to. Wang believes in hiring lapdogs, which he did by hiring a freshly retired journeyman goaltender named Garth Snow as his GM. These are the kind of geniuses that allowed us to witness the spectacle of signing injury-prone goalie Rick DiPietro to a 15-year contract. It was one of the first times that I openly laughed my ass off at a move, and the rest of the hockey world joined me. This man is still their general manager, and he is well on his way to going down as one of the worst in the current era. I will hear no arguments about this. He has won a whopping 1 playoff series since he has been hired. 1. And even then, I'm putting a gigantic asterisk beside it. The refs completely jobbed the Florida Panthers by not calling several blatant obstruction penalties. That series should have gone to a 7th game. Those 2 goals by John Tavares should have never happened. And now, it's proven that it was a fluke, and the team is near the bottom of the division again. Seriously, how long has this team been rebuilding for? It's been to the better part of 15 years by now. How many more prospects are they going to get rid of so guys like Alexei Yashin can give 0 fucks? To think that they went from Mike Milbury to this. It's like getting rid of smallpox only to realize that you've just contracted tuberculosis. Let's take an example of what I mean. Last offseason, the Islanders replaced Tavares' wingman in Kyle Okposo with a bruising winger in Andrew Ladd. Here's some basic math. The Islanders replaced their original player with a guy who is several years older, has significantly more NHL mileage on him, and was already showing signs of decline. Ladd looks completely cooked this season, and the contract looks like a dud so far. They saved $500,000 and got half of the production. Let's hope he's not here for a while. 7 years! Oh, good God almighty. That's just one example of his incompetence. There's also the issue of keeping 80s throwback Jack Capuano for way too goddamn long, botching the Thomas Vanek trade, nearly destroying Nino Niederreiter, and failing to develop the majority of his players. What do you want me to give him credit for? Drafting John Tavares? A toddler could have told you to do that. Hitting on some waiver claims? If you're bad for that long, you'll get some decent ones after a while. Okay, he traded for Nick Leddy and Johnny Boychuk. A broken clock is right twice a day. This team is so pathetic that their games are often accompanied by thousands upon thousands of empty seats. I can almost see the tumbleweeds being blown across the stadium. It makes a lot of sense because they abandoned their original home in Long Island because Wang couldn't get the area to give him money for a new stadium and fucked off to Brooklyn, to an arena that is in no way, shape, or form built for hockey. Now they have two disasters in Barclays Center. They're kicking them out because they're unprofitable, you say. At least you have those banners to keep you warm on the streets, I guess. Even when Wang is no longer a majority owner in the franchise, this team is still a goddamn mess. The Islanders now have no prestige, no dignity, and now they will have no home. As a fan of a division rival, I unfortunately cannot express my sympathies. You can, however, say David Volek to me 3 times and I will curl up into the fetal position. Even with the chaos, the fact is that this team is going nowhere with Garth Snow and company at the helm. And the sooner that he is gone, the better. Here's to hoping John Tavares is actually allowed to do something in May and June.
2 in Brooklyn. They win the face-off play all the way down and in!
Nope.
To the point. Slavin looks around. He'll walk that line. The first offer terrified him. They score! Backhand shot. He missed. And Bailey scores! Ryder in the slot. Goes wide. Stall the force. He scores! Here's Bailey. Scores!
Cam Ward got beat earlier on this list, but I'm not sure if he actually had to do much to earn his paycheck this day, as he faced 12 measly Islander shots on the way to a 9-0 shutout whipping. Eric Stahl nabbed a hat trick, and both Anton Babchuk and Eric Cole added 4 assists each as the Canes fired 57 shots towards the pipes. The one thing worse than this for Isles fans? What's the best way to have sex with a prostitute? On credit, baby, on credit. And that's how John Spano bought the Isles in 1996. Somehow, the league was so desperate to get that team sold, they overlooked his purchasing application or didn't ask for references. He claimed he was worth $230 million, he was only worth $5. He owed back taxes and was basically lying his ass off. It was revealed he was a swindler, was arrested for wire fraud, and did time. He did fire Mike Milbury, though, only as coach. A guy that gets furloughed more than a government employee. Sparky originally was the mascot for the defunct Arena League New York Dragons. Sparky was hired by the Isles in 2010, fired in 2015, but brought back in 2016. I guess he's more appealing than that stupid SUV they have parked near the ice.
The Islanders are pretty good these days, aren't they? In their second straight deep playoff run and the hope of a better tomorrow fueling their rise, you wouldn't know that things were extremely chaotic for them in the recent past. To truly understand the depths of their despair, you must know their situation back in 2017. I had just made a video about the New York Islanders and their sad state of affairs at the time. They were suffering through decades of incredibly awful ownership and executive management. They were about to waste yet another year of John Tavares. Garth Snow was still around somehow, and the team had constantly failed to come anywhere close to a legitimate contender. Things were looking bleak, and those were the least of their concerns. Due to piss-poor attendance, they were to be forced out of Barclays Center and might not have a home in the near future. They might leave the island. If they're lucky, only a short drive to Hartford, but what if it's Quebec City? It'd be sacrilege. So what changed their fortunes in this time frame? What turned this former scrap heap into a gold mine? Honestly, it was nearly everything. You look at them nowadays, and none of those previous concerns are a factor. Isles fans have something they haven't had in a while. Hope, fervor, the belief in sustainability. Things that seemed improbable 4 years ago. My 3 biggest issues at the time were easy to pinpoint. Terrible management and coaching, consistently apathetic ownership, and the failure to secure a new arena for the team. For this, let's start with the product on the ice. Ending the 2018 season, the Isles were at a crossroads. John Tavares was about to test the free agent waters. The team had massive holes throughout the lineup, and they lacked any sort of core identity. Doug Weight had them scoring at a nice clip, but it was at the cost of their defensive structure. They were a team that had the ice tilted, and it was leaning towards their own end. Their upside was first-round exit. Maybe a series win if the refs miss a tripping call. It was a cycle of doom. Garth Snow was a big issue with how the team was moving forward. There were some good moves made, but for the most part, he was terrible at his job. And he had been around for way too long. He had hemmed them in with awful free agent signings. He had been unable to secure a good coach for the team. There was nothing exciting besides Tavares and Matt Barzal. Something had to be done in the offseason. It's here where the spark was lit. 2 men would change the fortunes of the team almost overnight. The first, a man the Isles knew far too well from Jersey, Lou Lamoriello. After being relieved from duty in his execution of the Champlain, he was immediately picked up in Long Island as team czar. There were questions about his age and long-term viability, but his goal was to bring the Isles back to where they were. And he needed a coach that could take them there. Lo and behold, they get the most valuable acquisition the team's ever had. Barry Trotz, fresh off a Stanley Cup and can't make it past the second-round memes of his own, was a free agent. Ted Leonsis left him as a lame duck during the season. He felt that Trotz wasn't the guy to move his team forward. And he was almost right. Until he pulled the Caps team from the abyss to win a championship. Washington wouldn't give him the raise he deserved. And New York saw an opportunity. They paid him. And handsomely. As their new head coach, I had a feeling he'd be successful. The reason is simple. Trotz has always gotten more out of less. He took Nashville teams that had no business being competitive to the postseason regularly. He took a Washington squad that had its depth gutted to a cup. And the same thing happened with the Isles. But I didn't think it would have been anything like this. This was a group that was reeling from the loss of their captain in free agency. Nobody had this team going anywhere in 2018. Sure, I had them as a wild card, but I felt it would be unsustainable in the long term. This might be the safest take I've ever had. Trotz has earned every penny of his deal. This tenure might honestly be one of the best coaching jobs in NHL history. A team that shouldn't be sniffing deep playoff runs just rattles off convincing victories as if they were nothing. Necessity is the mother of innovation. And with the structure he's installed, they've not only survived, but thrived. They're relentless on puck carriers. They're suffocating in the neutral zone. Defensively, they mold into a cocoon for their netminder. If you're going to try and score on them, you'll have to earn it. All the while, their counterattack is one of the deadliest in hockey. And they've molded the team to suit their needs. All they need are 1 or 2 chances. One small slip-up and they will capitalize on it. As for the Capitals, they haven't won a playoff series since he's left. That includes series against the Isles themselves. But it's not just him doing this. It includes the assistants brought with him. The key piece? Mitch Korn. This name might sound unfamiliar to you, but look at his resume. He turned Dominik Hasek into a generational goalie. He made Pekka Rinne too good right now. His goaltending alumni include the likes of Jussi Saros, Tomas Vakun, Philip Grubauer, and many more. His fingerprints are all over this rise as well. Look at the goalies they had heading into the 2018-19 season. Thomas Greiss and Robin Lehner. An unremarkable journeyman and a shot in the dark trying to fight his own demons. Korn took these 2 question marks and turned them into elite netminders. The Isles not only revived their careers, but their netminding won them the William Jennings Award in 2019. Lehner and Greiss got nice paydays elsewhere. And now the same is being done with Semyon Varlamov and Ilya Sorokin. Doesn't hurt that Sorokin is one of the best goalie prospects out of Russia in recent history, but with their performances, it doesn't hurt. It also helps to have a strong defense. Remember when I said the Isles of years past were awful defensively? Their abysmal penalty kill under Doug Waite? That changed almost overnight, and it was with materials they already had in store. Adam Pellick and Ryan Pollock under their watch have turned into some of the best defenders in the game. Devon Taves, before he got traded, was in the same boat. The names are unassuming, but there isn't a weak point on any of these pairings. Their penalty kill went from dead last to one of the best in the league. Their once biggest liabilities have become their greatest strengths. Their forward core isn't anything special, but they're well-rounded. Under Lane Lambert, they know their roles and play them well. They can all chip in offensively if need be. They are malleable and adaptable. Men who are effective in all three zones. Relentless forecheckers, aggressive backcheckers. There isn't a true superstar of the bunch. The only one that comes close is Matt Barzal, but they are all incredible pieces to this team. And that's what this is. A team. An organized unit whose only goal is for the betterment of the club. It works with every trade mate. For guys like Jean-Gabriel Pajot, even if the price to get him was steep, the man's a playoff warrior. And his exploits are well known in that realm. Former Devils in Andy Green, Travis Zajac, and Cal Palmieri brought in to fill holes. And they too have made a serious impact on their fortunes. Even when Anders Lee, their goddamn captain, is knocked out for the season, they do not stop. Next man up. That's the key for the Islanders. This team is built for the playoffs. With their blend of size, speed, skill, and tenacity, they're a menace to any team that faces them. And the credit goes to those offseason moves in 2018. Now, you can make the argument that Lou isn't really worthy of crediting here, and I can see the case. I must acknowledge that most of these players were acquired by Garth Snow. But the one thing Lou has that Snow doesn't? Prestige. Influence. I don't know if Garth Snow lures Sorokin to the States. I don't know if the Isles get Trotz corner Lambert if Lamoriello isn't around. And if Trotz doesn't come, none of this happens. We probably still think of the Isles as uninspired. That's why he should at least get some credit for this turnaround. Then the question of ownership comes into view. The past 25 years have been rough on that front, ranging from outright hucksters to the felonious to simply incompetent. The team had played second fiddle to their owner's own desires. But that has also changed. John Ledecky and Scott Malkin have one quality that many other owners of this team haven't had. They care about the Islanders. They do everything to ensure the team's successful. They stay out of day-to-day operations. And their steady presence has allowed the Isles to unlock their current ability. Would apathetic owners have given Lou Lamoriello and Barry Trotz the salaries they desired? Of course not! They'd have just stuck with Garth Snow and rolled the dice. They had to take risks instead of trust the status quo. And it has rewarded both them and the team. This includes the quest for a new arena. The move from Nassau to Brooklyn was much maligned. And for good reason. Barclays Center is a basketball stadium only. Hockey is an afterthought in all aspects. The only benefit was the fucking car lurking behind the glass. Do you know how long it takes for people to get from Long Island to Brooklyn during rush hour? Now do you see why no one showed up there? You may as well have moved the team to Scranton for the time being. A new arena was necessary for their survival here. As much as Nassau is beloved, it isn't up to modern standards. Now they chose to take another shot. They were competing with NYCFC for a plot of land in Belmont a few years ago to build their new home. Their case was strong for the claim. And they got it. The New York Islanders are staying on the island. And it's where they belong. The Isles have far too much history to move in the blink of an eye. Are you seeing the raucous crowds they're getting at Nassau? You want them to leave this? Of course not. It would be terrible for hockey. With UBS Arena opening up next season, they won't have to worry about that for a good bit. In 4 years, the Islanders have gone from a team that had lost nearly everything to a redemption story. With the combination of effort, the right moves, off-ice savvy, and top-notch team structure, they have emerged from low counter. Now, I don't know if this team can win a cup with how they're assembled, but they're a team that fans can be proud of. And that goes a long way for most. They are an inspiration to every team out there. With hard work, dedication, and a little luck, you too can get out of the massive hole you're in. Even Buffalo, they too can escape hell if the cards fall the right way. Okay, that might be a bit overboard. Hold up, I almost forgot. There is one dark chapter of Isles history I have to address.
He's coming home, tell the world that he's...
Considering the fact that the Isles have not only won a playoff series before Tavares has gone deeper than the Leafs have in 20 years and won multiple series in Toronto during the bubble, I'd say Long Island isn't reeling as much from the slide anymore. I bet that Lamoriello's cackling on the inside as well.